Hello, I'm Dr. Tom, and I'd like to welcome you to another Friday Update. And as 2020 is beginning to wind down, here we are in December. Hard to believe, hard to imagine that this year has gone so quickly in some regards and taken almost forever, what seems like forever, in other regards. And I'd like to address that a little bit with you today because when we started into 2020, we talked about having 2020 vision. We talked about looking forward. We talked about taking action steps and putting in a plan to be able to accomplish certain things in the year of 2020 or perfect vision. And we've been very successful with that. As a matter of fact, we've had a record number of people upgrade in your club in the month of November because people are preparing. Let me say that again. During all this crisis and all of the information that's out there and all of the hype and the fear and the promotion and the media coverage, members of Gen took a deep breath. Members of Gen had vision. Members of Gen said, I'm going to use discernment and I'm going to look and see what's out there and I'm going to focus on things that are important. Things like the Success Mastery course, things like moving forward in this club. That's exactly what we're doing here. You see, 2020 is a year where we did that in Gen. We looked forward. We set ourselves up for success. We didn't buy into all of the nonsense, if you will, about some of the hype that's happened surrounding the distraction, or what I've referred to as the great disruptor in 2020. We've talked ad nauseum about recommendations that came out and then were changed and then were restated and then rechanged, things about social distancing and things about masks and things. And now the latest two things out this week are the discernment of when this actually started, the truth of when it actually occurred. Now they're saying it was actually earlier, which is what we've been saying. It happened here in Northwest Arkansas, where people were sick in December and early January, long before the whole Wuhan bat story lab thing happened in the world of China. So that's one thing. And you know, when it got here, now they're saying that quarantining is different. Maybe it's not 14 days. Maybe it's 10 days. Maybe it's 7 days, depending upon if you got a test. But then depending upon if the tests are accurate or if the tests are inaccurate, or if they're false positives or false negatives. And if you have the antibody test, if it's a false positive or a false negative. And so there are so many things out there. And quite frankly, there are thousands of scientific people, virologists, people who have studied biology, people who understand viruses, that have a very different narrative than we're getting from the CDC or that we're getting here in the United States. And wherever you are in the world, you may be getting a different story as well, because you have different news media outlets and they have a different narrative. And understand that the news media of today is not a reporting, it's a narrative. There is an offensive plan of what they expect for you to buy or you to believe or you to hear often enough that you begin to think there's some semblance of fact there. So let's not spend all of 2021 in that regard. Let's do what we did in 2020, where we focused on things that work, things that we know that work, things that are hundreds of years old or thousands of years old, success principles that work. We use the discernment, and we started producing Terrific Tuesdays with Tom Ward, Wellness Wednesdays that I've been doing, and Financial Fridays that Lee Kinney has been doing, and the Member Development Series, which Dr. Ted and Blaine and Joel and Lee and I, you know, and Tom Ward as well. You see, we looked inward in the club. We looked to things that work. We looked to things that were proven. We had great vision in 2020 because that's what we said we were going to do. We began to look forward and we began to plan, and all the chatter and all the distraction and disruption, you see, you just quiet the noise. Just quiet the noise. Focus on what feels good in your gut. You know, the whole setup in this narrative is that the vaccine is going to save the world. And if you believe in the vaccine and want to take the vaccine, I encourage you to do that, because there's even a placebo concept to taking things that works even if it doesn't. Personally, I think it's a little early to rush something that is unproven. The good news is it's a different type of vaccine. This messenger RNA vaccine is never It's never happened before. There's never been one approved that's out there, to my knowledge, the reports that I read. So it is different in that regard. That doesn't mean that it's safe. That doesn't mean that we can trust what we're being told, because quite frankly, we've been told a lot of information that simply isn't true. It isn't accurate, and it has a narrative, and it has an outcome that is the goal. And those aren't necessarily my goals. They may not be your goals. They're certainly not the goals of Gin. We're about a success club of like-minded people who are moving forward. And we're not in fear, we're in faith. And we know that somehow, somewhere, some way, we are going to survive as a human race. Because only 99.9% of us survive this anyway. So why should we shut down the entire world to prevent that? Now, I understand, and please understand me when I say this to you, that I understand if you've been personally impacted, there is a coronavirus. That's a fact. And it is very hard on some people. And there are particular age groups and demographics and comorbidities that it's harder on. And then there is the exception where it's just really hard on someone that you wouldn't expect it. They don't fit into any of those categories. And so if you have suffered a loss, or in your family or your friends or your close circle of influence, or just the people that are suffering through that, and they're limited in what they can do, even through the grieving process, our hearts go out to you. I sincerely mean that. We as a club empathize with that circumstance and situation. We support you. And if there's anything that we can do, please don't hesitate to call on a Gin member, brother or sister, and ask for support. This is a time when you see coronavirus isn't the only thing going on in the world. We still have cancer, and we still have heart disease, and we still have diabetes, and we still have car accidents, and we still have other forms of death and suffering that are also suffering because we can't even go through the grieving process. The suicide rates are astronomical. Drug use is up. We've been personally impacted in our facility in Illinois. It's heartbreaking. I mean, it's sad. Dr. Ted and I have had some really tough moments with people who are signed up to come in and they overdose before they can get there after they've made an appointment, because this is real as well. So there's a lot of healing to take place. The good news is that this is the holiday season, the holy season. This is the time of enlightenment. This is the time to look forward. This is the time to draw on your inner strength. This is the time to look inward. This is the time to reevaluate who you are and what you've done and what you've become and the path that you're on and the goals that you have and the dreams that you have and what are you doing? What are your action steps that you're taking? What's your morning routine? And how do you apply the principles of Gin on a daily basis deep inside of you so that when something happens in your life, your reaction is the way that you've been trained. It's the way that you've been coached. It's the way that you be. You see, that's the power of Gin. There's good news coming. Believe me, there's great news coming. 2020 will finish on an upward swing. 2021 will be a spectacular year for all of us that choose to participate in it being a spectacular year. You see, there are ways in which you can set yourself up for success, and as the year begins to wind down, and I failed to mention the virtual chapter meetings that we started. And actually, we have a new virtual chapter meeting starting this Saturday, December the 5th at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can go online, log into your website, go to the dashboard. There is a new member in Level 1 virtual meeting that's going to take place, the first one of those, and we'd like to, thank the people that are so in charge of that. Aileen, thank you for that, and David, thank you for that, and Joanne, thank you for that, and Paul, your Gin brothers and sisters who have stepped forward in 2020 at a time when all this chatter is going on. They've said, let's just stabilize this club. Let's show people how to get started right. Let's show them the benefits that happen. There will be a tremendous number of people on that Zoom call. So you go to your website, log in, go to the dashboard. You'll see a little red banner that talks about a new member meeting. Click on that. You'll be told how to register for the Zoom call so that you can get on the call. You will be joined by, I know the number. I'm not going to give it to you because I want you to see what's happening inside this club. I want you to see the faces that pop up and the messaging that you hear and how the leadership of this club has been groomed and understands the Success Mastery course and how they're going to share that with you to get you started right so that you understand the value of what you have inside this club. It's just another way where in 2020 we found the gold. We're finding more gold. There's a lot more gold to mine and to find out there. There are so many ways, and what I do typically at the end of a year, and I know that so many of us in Gen are small business owners, and those business owners have to keep score, and so the year end is a time when it gets really busy over the next few weeks, where we're looking at what happened during the year and what things are up and what worked and what didn't work as well and what used to work and doesn't work and what had we never heard of and now we're doing a lot of and it works. And it's time to reevaluate those things. And it's something that I do each year at this time of year. And then I actually do a time that I set a mental bookmark, if you will, for the Super Bowl, which happens to coincide with our February event that's happening in Vegas. But I've done this before we had set that up. I do a reevaluation of what I have accomplished in the year, and I reevaluate things like your life insurance policies and my 401k and the allocation of things that are in your portfolio, whether they're gold or cryptocurrencies or stocks or bonds or whatever those things are. Look at them at least once a year so that you're up to speed, because life changes. And what happens is you get busy and then you find it's been 5 years or 7 years or 10 years or 22 years since you looked at these things. You just put them over there and expected them to take care of themselves. Pay attention to them. Begin to think differently about them. It's something that I learned and through our connections and connectivity and relationships. Through Garrett Gunderson came into our life years ago, and he changed the way that I thought. And Brian Dodge changed the way that I look at family business. You see, they each gave me certain nuggets, certain starting points, and it took me a while to implement them. And it took me a while to recoup the investment, if you will. For sometimes you can recoup the investment in one statement that they make. Maybe you get it back the first month. Maybe it takes you a year. That's okay. Maybe it takes you 5 years. That's okay too. You're going to be here 5 years doing something. You might as well be doing something that's appropriate, that builds your financial business. Reevaluate. Tim and Marcy are Gen members. They have done a great service to so many Gen members by opening their eyes and just getting people to look at things a little bit differently. I thank all of those people and the things that I've learned from each of them. It's important. You see, simple things like maybe you can borrow money from your 401k. Maybe you didn't know that. I didn't know it for years until I was asking questions about how I could do certain things. And they said, well, you can't do this. You can't do real estate in it because, well, you can do real estate, but you can't do real estate that you personally gain from. I was looking to buy the cabin. And when I asked them to do that, to take money out of my money out of my 401k, they said, you can't do that if you spend the night there more than one night a year. Well, I knew I was going to do that, so that was incongruent with my philosophy. I'm not going to lie about something to get something, to do something, and then the whole time I'm there, I'm going to be nervous about the fact that I lied about it. It doesn't fit my vibe, so I'm not going to do that. What I was able to do is to find out that you could do a loan out of your own 401k, which you pay back to yourself. This is a very simple thing. Maybe you own a car. Maybe you have $50,000 on a car. You can borrow that money from your 401k. You can pay cash for the car. Now you pay yourself back into your 401k with interest. So you get your money back plus the interest, and you end up with the car. So in 3 years or 5 years or however long you finance your car with yourself, you end up with the car and the money. You see, that's different. Typically, you end up with the car and Toyota has the money, or your bank has the money, or Mercedes, or BMW, or Jaguar, whoever it is, they have the money and you have the car, which is a rapidly depreciating asset, and it's not worth as much as it would be as if you had the money. So now you have the money back and the car. Simple little tip like that. What's that worth to you? Well, you might do that, you might do that 5 or 6 or 10 times in your life. It might be worth $500,000 to you, because you're going to put the money back. You end up with the money and the car. You see, it's little tips, little things like that you can learn by associating with people inside this club. These are some of the tips that I learned and some of the things that we shared in the financial fitness workshop. A great aspect, if you're new to the club or haven't taken that course or done that, send an email to support at Gen United. They'll have the pricing for you. They'll tell you how you can pay for it, how you can get that, how you can begin to think. You see, it's a process. It's the way in which you begin to think and the way you begin to change and the way you get to accumulate. You become the bank. Why do you think banks have all those great big buildings? It's not because they gave you all the money. They gave you some money knowing that you're going to give them more money back. And they ended up with the money. They have the big buildings. They pay huge fines for what they do to get customers. It's a different business model. You see, they have a 100-year plan. They don't care about losing. It doesn't destroy their model. They care about losing money, believe me. I know a little bit about that. They have a long-term, they have a 100-year plan. So if they have a couple of bad years or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 bad years, they still make up for it. They've recovered from the financial crisis. They're doing spectacularly well. They're very strong right now. People tend to have a 3 or 5 year plan, or maybe a 10-year plan, or maybe a 20-year plan. And when those plans coincide, everyone wins. And when they don't, they're going to win because they can outlast you. So it's a matter of being your own bank, being in control of your own destiny. Maybe, I'll tell you a way you can have Gen free. You can have your Gen membership free for 30 years. It's real simple. Refinance your house. Right now, this week is the lowest interest rates have been in the United States in history. There have been 14 times this year when that rate has been the lowest it's ever been. So it's gone lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. It's a 2.71 right now for a 30-year note. You can refinance your house. This is something that I did. I know how to do this because I just did it. I had a great loan. I had a great rate, but I got a better one. I could get it out. At the time I did it was 2.75. So even factoring in some closing costs in that, I save $500 a month. I'd do that. I'll spend some time sending in some forms, gathering some information, save $500 a month. It's not a big mortgage. It's $500 a month. Perfect. That $500 a month savings, maybe it's $150 for you. There's your Gen membership for free. For 30 years, it's free. It's locked in. It's a locked-in rate. It's never been this low. This is a time to refinance your home. It's a great time to borrow money against your home. The rates are the lowest they've ever been. You see, there are times when debt can be good. Maybe you can borrow against that and pay off higher debt things and eliminate all that higher debt that's going to credit cards and the toys that you have or the things that you have, the things that you're paying off, and you get it at a lower rate over a longer period of time. Because $1 today, 30 years from now, is not going to be worth $1. I can assure you, we just printed 3 trillion of them. At some point, that's going to come home to roost, and we are going to have some inflation, and the dollar of today is not the same as a dollar of 30 years from now. $1 30 years from now won't buy you what it will do today. So I choose to kick that can down the road. Perfect. So can you. That's just one. Those are just a couple of things that you can do. As the year winds down, and as you evaluate your business, and as you evaluate your life, and as you evaluate who you are, what is your philosophy financially? And if you don't have one, listen to some of the people that I just mentioned. Listen to Garrett, listen to Tim, listen to Marcy, listen to Brian. Listen to these people tell you how you can get ahead. These are not get-rich-quick schemes. These are philosophies. These are ways of thinking. These are ways of taking the same money you have and redistributing it in different ways that you end up with more money at the end of the day or the end of the year or the end of 5 years or the end of your retirement. This is how you win. And this is when you get around people that think like this, it's infectious and it's spectacular and it's rewarding and it's invigorating and it's enthusiastic. And those are the things that happen when you're a member of Gen. And we're proud and honored that you are a member of Gen. And as we've gone through 2020 with great vision and had a great year, as I've said, great upgrades because more people realize the benefits of the Success Mastery course. And they realize that the way you get level 8 with KT for free is to get to level 7. In order to get to level 7, you had to get to level 6. In order to get to level 6, you had to go to level 5. In order to be level 5, you had to go to level 4. In order to be level 4, you had to go to level 3. In order to be level 3, you had to go to level 2. In order to be 2, you had to go to 1. You had to join. You had to do something. You had to get involved in this club. There's never been a better time or a lower entry point to get in this club as there is right now. You just start paying your dues. In order to qualify for that, you have to be a member by the end of this month, by the end of December 2020. So Tell those people that used to be in Gen, or you know that we're in Gen, or that you want to get into Gen, this is the month they have to do that in order to get in line, to get on the train, to get it's an unlimited amount of value. It's limitless what you can accomplish. By the time you get to be ready to take level 8, you will be such a different person in a great way, because you bought into the Success Mastery course. You took bites at a time. That's why it's set up as a system. It's why you go through the levels, because the information is released to you when you've had a chance to be prepared for it, if you've studied, if you've listened, if you've applied. That's the way this works. That's the way 2021 will be great for you. Because we're going to find out who we are at the end of 2020. We're going to evaluate who we are. I've often asked the question this year, who are you? I don't ask that question lightly, and I don't ask it for any reason other than I'm asking you to evaluate yourself. Think about who you are. What is it that you intend to accomplish while you're physically on this planet? What is the legacy you want to leave behind? What is the dream that you're going for? And how can you mastermind with other people? How can you do the right things long enough consistently so that you accomplish what it is that you intend to do? I suggest you have a plan. And part of that plan is figure out your finances. Part of that plan is evaluate your business at the end of each year. Part of that plan is knowing the score. Part of that plan is change. Change. That is so hard for so many people, and particularly as people get older, change is more difficult. Your willingness to learn, your ability to change, your ability to pivot and to see things differently, and to open up your mind, and to open up your spirit, and to open up your soul, and to open up your heart, so that you can to get out of your way. In order to get out of your way, you first must understand who you are. And the ways in which we believe you find out who you are studying the Success Mastery course and seeing how many things you've done that you could do differently. Maybe it's only 3% different. Maybe it's 300% different. It's different for everyone. The beauty is the answers are there. You just must begin to ask the questions. And then you must be willing. You must be willing to take an action step to move toward your dream, to move toward the fulfillment of you, because you're the only you that'll ever be on this planet. That's a tremendous responsibility, in my opinion. I'm proud and honored that you're a part of the Global Information Network. And I'm proud and honored that we're going to take the vision of 2020 and we're going to accelerate that as we move into 2021, because 2021 is about you. It's about you. That one is about one person. It's about you. Not from an egotistical standpoint, but from a developmental standpoint, from an understanding standpoint, from an enlightenment standpoint, from an evolutionary standpoint. Who are you becoming, and who do you intend to become? Those are my questions for you this week. I'm Dr. Tom. I hope you have a spectacular week.